Thank you very much. The last piece of this first part of this concert is called Doina. That is klezmer music. Its roots are from Eastern Europe, especially from Poland. And it is Jewish, beautiful music. So the soloist in this beautiful piece is Tom van Noort on clarinet.
Wasn't it wonderful? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this past week you have experienced has been about storytelling and passes them on to the future generations. And today we have with us Sasha Kadix, and she's a youngster from the KSG High School here in Apeldoorn. And she's actually very familiar with her grandfather's stories. He too lived through the war and often shares his memory with his grandchildren. And there's this Dutch journalist, he's called Guus Essers, and he was given the opportunity to put the stories down on paper. And Sasha would love to share one of the stories with us. This is her first time, you can imagine, speaking for such an audience. So please give her a warm welcome, Sasha Kadix.
Children's parade triumphantly marches down Emmalaan, an Apeldoorn street. A small group of boys, all wearing toy helmets or festive pointy hats, waving flags and banners. You can hear them all cheering enthusiastically. "We have been liberated! We have been liberated!" Following shortly after is a small group of girls with a lavishly decorated doll carriage. Pine branches, garlands, and flags flutter high up in the wind. The children are being cheered on and encouraged by the smiling groups of people standing on the sidewalks. I am looking at a picture that was taken on the 17th of April 1945, the day Apeldoorn was liberated by the Canadians. The picture itself speaks 1,000 words. It was taken by Barry Gilroy, who was employed at the time by the 1st Canadian Infantry Division of the Liberation Army. He shot a series of photos immediately after the liberation of Apeldoorn, capturing the way the citizens expressed their joy and relief towards the salvation from German occupation. During the final few days, before that memorable date of the 17th of April 1945, there were still some very violent battles between the Canadian liberators and the remaining German soldiers. The 13th and 14th of April were two very anxious days for Apeldoorn. The Canadian liberators moved into Villa Laag Buurlo in Deventerstraat. This is where they set up their command post. The Canadian attack to take over the Deventer Bridge failed, unfortunately, just one day after. It was during this battle that the Canadians lost several of their men and 2 of their Sherman tanks. Officers of the Royal Canadian Regiment gathered that same afternoon at Villa Laag Buurlo to orchestrate a new plan of action for a passage over the Canal of Apeldoorn. It was at that moment a German grenade blew a hole in the outside wall. 2 of the officers that were present got fatally injured. Captain F.J. Sims of the Royal Canadian Regiment, he died that day as the last officer of his regiment, and Lieutenant J.W. Reardon of the 1st Hussars, commander of a platoon of Sherman tanks. The plaque was revealed on the rear outside wall of the villa on the 3rd of May 1995, in remembrance of the 2 fallen soldiers. It was revealed by Captain Sims's twin sister, Mrs. Cynthia Sladen Sims. The copper plaque was adopted by primary school De Bundel in Apeldoorn. The students commemorate the fallen Canadians with a short ceremony every year on the 17th of April at the villa. A few Canadian soldiers wrote words into some wooden planks with a poker to commemorate their usage of the villa. These branded wooden planks were gifted to the museum. This way, these special mementos are being preserved for the next generations. The final moments, before the city was actually liberated, were probably the most anxious moments of the entire war. The Canadian officers were under the impression that Apeldoorn was going to be defended by nearly 3,000 German soldiers. This is why they had planned an attack on Apeldoorn after a preparatory artillery fire of the area surrounding the Deventer Bridge. It would cause an immense amount of damage with expected fatalities and injuries among the citizens. This is why two resistors from Apeldoorn, Gijs Niemann and Albert van der Scheur, risked their lives to reach the Canadian soldiers at night via the little lock at the Vlijtsweg, to tell them that there were hardly any German soldiers left and that heavy artillery wasn't necessary. In the end, they were able to convince the Canadians. The plan of attack was changed, and nearly 100 Canadians journeyed with Niemann and van der Scheur in silence via the little lock to the surrounding area of the Deventer Bridge. The soldiers wore thick socks over their army boots to reduce making any noise. Gijs Niemann fired a parachute flare in the early morning as a sign that it was safe. Immense uproar arose instantly after. Tanks drove down Deventerstraat and grand columns of Canadian soldiers entered the village. And in no time, the citizens, who had been waiting since the early hours of the morning, were overcome with joy. Flags were flying high all through Apeldoorn on the 17th of April 1945. Apeldoorn was alive and vibrant. There was no escaping it in the city. The exuberant citizens applauded the passing troops and cheered for the Canadian soldiers who were marching down the street. They kissed and hugged the military soldiers that walked by, handing them small gifts, walking along with them for a little while, side by side. Apeldoorn had been freed by the Canadians. Thank you, Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of today, and to symbolize the freedom that was given us by the Canadian veterans 70 years ago, we would like to present you the Liberation Torch. And we will ask Mr. Gogo later to pass it on to the future generation. We are waiting for the torch. And you can applaud for this young gentleman.
May this fire burn bright in you, and may you always respect, honor, treasure, and celebrate your freedom.
By accepting this fire, I promise, on behalf of my generation and generations to come, that we will enjoy and appreciate our freedom to the fullest, that we will stand up and guard our freedom when necessary, but above all, that we will never forget what great strength, unselfishness, and courage it took all those years ago to fight for the freedom as we know it today. Because anyone who closes his eyes to the past is blind to the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you, little girls and little boy. And And Amber, isn't it cute? Thank you. Give them a warm applause. And after such a memorable moment, we go on with I Say a Little Prayer for You. That was a very old bugle, and that was the single, the trumpet single. There's a story about this trumpet. 70 years ago, a 4-year-old boy found this bugle you just heard amidst a haystack in Ermelo. Later, it turned out that this bugle belonged to the Irish regiment of the 11th Canadian Infantry Brigade. Throughout his life, the boy took great care of this bugle. Unfortunately, the man passed away 10 years ago. But recently, his wife presented the bugle to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 005. And in the coming weeks, the bugle will be transferred to the museum of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 005 in Lochem. So that it'll find his final rest. Is that nice? Is it a nice bugle? Yes. And the next song comes also with a story. You may know, well, Dutch people may know, but maybe the Canadians know him as well as André Kuipers, our famous Dutch astronaut, who spent 5 months in space for the ISS expedition 31 in 2012. His father, who lived in Amsterdam, was liberated by the Canadians as well. And therefore, André has always had great respect for his father's liberators and feels it's important to cherish one's personal freedom and to carry on the legacy of remembering our past. It only seems fitting to then dedicate the next song to André. Apollo 13. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have 4 pieces from the Dutch veteran top 50. And we're listening to Brothers in Arms, 1, View 2, Gonna Fly Now, and Mission Impossible. First of all, Brothers in Arms.
These must cover my